What's up, y'all? One Piece One Life here, and guys, I'm 21. I celebrated my 21st birthday over the weekend, so I guess I'm officially legal. Well, I guess legal in the US, because I was damn near legal everywhere else since I was 18. And I feel like for my birthday weekend, Oda really blessed me with a lot of presents in the form of information. But you know what, guys? Today I'm sharing these gifts with all of you because honestly, we've all been blessed. Oda has just given us supplemental material for SBS 110. And honestly, I feel like it hasn't even been that long since the last SBS dropped because I remember doing a video for it back in, I think, July. But wait, there's more. Alongside the SBS, turns out Oda did a random interview in Japan. In Japan didn't need to be said, that's where he lives. But in that interview, he answered 10 burning questions that One Piece fans wanted to know about the story. So we'll be going through both the SBS as well as these questions and seeing what all information we got from it. Strap in, guys, because it's a lot. But first, before we get into diving into this treasure trove of info, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week, and share it around with all your friends who love the series. Like I always say, let's get it going. And make sure you subscribe to CSY. We are the next big thing and we just hit 1.5k. Now, for those of you who don't know, since a lot of you are not big nerds like me, the SBS is essentially a question corner that's put in the back of the Tankobon volumes, which allows Oda to give us supplemental information like this. And we got quite a bit to go through today, so let's start with the easy question. Somebody asked to see what Yamato's forms look like when she was a kid, since she ate her devil fruit when she was really young. I mean, they look like this, and I mean, they're cool, I guess. I don't know why that's a burning question somebody wanted to know. Though I guess now we know that Zoan's size changes with age, so that's lore, I guess. So then Oda gives us some world building information about the Long Arm tribe in terms of what the two different elbows that they have signify. Turns out the one closer to the hand is the friend elbow, while the one closer to the shoulder is the love elbow, and has implications for how close you are to the person. So I guess maybe it's like only a lover can touch the love elbow, or maybe like have a special greeting or something. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. Now the next thing that's discussed is something that a lot of people were talking about when it first happened, and that's just who exactly fed Luffy during the Battle of Egghead. After their battle, they both collapsed and Luffy was exhausted. Then the next time we see him, he's right next to the food machine, scarfing down food. And Oda tries to play it off as a joke, but he essentially confirms that it was in fact Kizaru who moved Luffy there at the speed of light. So Kizaruber is actually confirmed. Who's Aruber? Kizaruber? Kizaruber! But also, I mean, this just plays into his unclear justice because he knows he can't do anything explicit against the world government because he still wants to get that check. So instead he has to do something underhanded to give Luffy, you know, even a fighting chance. So we get some auxiliary information about Sword, honestly not much to say. And then we get the 20 years in the future and 40 years in the future profiles for Jinbei that Oda did with all of the Straw Hats, splitting them up between the good timeline and the bad timeline. So in the good timeline, Jinbei at age 60 is a pioneer for equal rights because he's telling other fishermen, hey, don't go after them humans, we're all equals here, we can figure it out. Then at age 80, he's essentially just a jolly old man, just happy to, you know, be alive essentially. Oh hell, the jolly fat man. If you understand that reference, I can rock with you. In the bad timeline, at age 60, he essentially becomes a mafia boss with intimidating spikes on his shoulders, talking about some, we gotta kill all the humans. So, oh dear. And then at age 80, he's literally like some sort of water kaiju just lurking at the bottom of the depths of the sea, talking about, I'm gonna drag you down to the depths with me. So for everyone's sake, let's pray that we stay in the good timeline. So then we get another world building question, this time asking about where the Gorosei get their immaculate suits from. Not gonna lie, this is not one of the questions I would have asked for world building, but I'm happy we got it. So it turns out there's this man in a cat costume, cat mink, called Nyornio Nyarmani, a play on our real world's Giorgio Armani, who was a special clothes designer coming from the Nagagatsu kingdom in the East Blue. And it's supposed to be the One Piece world's equivalent to Italy, so obviously with Giorgio Armani being from Italy, it makes sense there. But then Oda says only the Gorosei are allowed to wear his clothes, which makes me wonder, did the world government kidnap this poor man? Cause like, I'm sure he wasn't only making clothes for them since the day he started being a tailor, so why'd they do that to him? Also, I wonder if that means that when Garling first got the call that he's about to take Saturn's spot, he immediately rushed over to Nyornyo and was like, yo, I need you to do this for me immediately so that I can walk in on them and strut. We then get more information about the vice admirals that came with Kizaru to Egghead, since most of them didn't do anything during this arc. So as most people surmise just from seeing what he had, Pomsky has eaten the Rako Rako no Mi, or the otter fruit, a zoan type that allows him to transform into an otter. It was kind of in the background, but nice to confirm. And also he uses this big clam hammer thing to smash people. I'm gonna be calling it the clammer. Vice Admiral Dahl, who is obviously the best one there, is, quote, a martial artist with a rock and roll soul. Which, I mean, we already saw because she was just hocking up her hands and used the rock and roll blaster to start boxing with literal giants. I mean, who knows? Maybe she likes to listen to Soul King Brook during her workout routines. Like, that would be interesting things to know. Vice Admiral Tosa uses the Tosa Ken, or Earth Tea Fist fighting style, which is essentially a combination of the Rokushiki techniques and Haki, but it's specifically in this crunching motion that we saw him try to do when he was trying to attack Bonnie and Frankie. And you know, I bet it would have been pretty strong if he hadn't been taken out by a fodder giant. So then y'all know Vice Admiral Urban, the guy with the top hat and the underbite? Yeah, so it turns out the top hat can just transform into a cannon and start blasting at people. He ate the Tsutsu no Mi, or the cannon fruit, and became a cannonball human, so just started blasting, I guess. Now with Bluegrass, we already got that she uses the ride fruit, but interestingly, Oda does note that she is kind of like an older sister figure to Otsuru, the great chief staff officer. And Tsuru is old as hell because she's in the same year as Garp and Sengoku, so how old is Bluegrass? Also interestingly, for her devil fruit, it specifically says that it's anything within her Haki range that can be, you know, affected and then rode on. What does that mean? This is an interesting way of quantifying it, because then you have to ask questions like, if somebody who ate this fruit didn't awaken to their Haki, would that mean that the power just wouldn't work? You wouldn't be able to use it? It's interesting, we've never seen a devil fruit and Haki work so close in tandem together like this. So Vice Admiral Hound is revealed to have eaten a hound devil fruit, doesn't specify which one. So I guess that's cool, but it also does mention that he's in the same graduating class as Smoker, so who knows, maybe they had a rivalry thing going on. We already saw that Red King has that steam-powered knuckle thing, kind of the same thing that Zephyr had in film Z, and we also saw him got one shot by Frankie, so he's not impressive. And then lastly, we got Guillotine, who's the guy with the blade on his head. Literally, his fighting style is just taking that blade and chucking it like a boomerang, so yeah, great choice of Vice Admirals here. And then we get to the final question, which is about Fujitora and Aramaki's backstories. And wow, am I excited. So starting with Green Bull, essentially he comes from the Taya Kingdom in the South Blue, where he worked as a policeman. After an incident involving a woman, doesn't go into detail about that incident is, he was thrown into prison. But then the government heard that he's particularly strong, and that's how he came to be drafted into the Marines and then be promoted to the admiral position. So here's the thing, we probably know that the incident with the woman was probably his lover and somehow in some way related to, I guess I have to use the term unaliving because that's what's written on his chest. But since he's an admiral, I'm sure we're gonna get the full context of his backstory in the actual series itself. But who actually cares about Green Bull when you think about it? The answer is no one, because we're here for Fujitora. Mostly because I just want to see, is my theory about Fujitora's origins dead in the water? Well, it was partly discredited. See, Fujitora is stated to be born in the Grand Line. It doesn't say where specifically he's from, just notes that it was born in the Grand Line, but that the place that he ended up going to later is not where he was born. He became the defense military chief in the Aoi Kingdom. Anyway, while he was this big defense general person, a war was waged and left the Aoi Kingdom ravaged. Because of that war, Fujitora himself became a war criminal. So to try and escape this fate, he absconded into the West Blue and started gambling his sorrows away. But because he's such a horrible gambler, he ended up accruing a massive amount of debt. And in order to pay off this debt, he had to become a bodyguard. And it's while he was being this bodyguard that the government finally found him and drafted him into the Marines. So technically part of my theory was incorrect because I said that that the thing that made him blind himself was seeing Orochi and Kaido's machinations in Wano, and that's what blinded him. From this backstory, it makes it basically confirm that it was whatever happened in this terrible war that made him blind himself. But the possibility of him being from Wano in general is still possible, because this could just have been one of the many side quests of what happened after he left Wano. Now let's just wait to see where he was born, because ain't no way, I'm still on this. Now we have the 10 questions, and we're gonna kind of just breeze through these to discuss them. The first question is about how Luffy is able to create objects from literally out of nowhere, and that's a real ass question because he's just creating baseball bats and goggles and stuff literally out of nothing. Oda just basically says, yeah, it's a gateway into Nika's fantasy, which means essentially whatever Nika wants to happen can happen. The second question is about whether Sabo trains with his Mera no Mi every day, to which Oda says yes. Yes, he does. The third is kind of interesting. It's talking about whether Dragon has ever actually lived with Luffy for a time. We already kind of figured out this answer, but Oda essentially says that because Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, he actually couldn't stay with his family for that long, because if they found out that he had a family, they would be targeted. He also hints that Dragon must have felt something when he was leaving his family, but I don't believe that. Bro just felt the desire to look east and do nothing. I don't believe that in the slightest. In question 4, Oda basically confirms that there's some sort of connection between Blackbeard and Rocks the Zebek. Even though Zebek is also a kind of ship, the way that he's saying it, it's pretty obvious. Question 5 is an interesting question because it's talking about how Shanks was able to use Divine Departure, like whether he learned it from Roger or what happened. Oda says that Shanks literally just learned it from observing Roger and replicating his fighting style. Roger didn't ever teach him this directly, something that no other person on Roger's crew could do, mind you. Oda's essentially just saying Shanks is him because he's saying, yo, this is something that even Rayleigh couldn't do. Now the next question is something that actually got the community going because we get a breakdown of the Cross Guilds bounty system. Essentially, you gotta remember that 1 star is equal to 100 million belly. That's the baseline. And 1 crown is equal to 10 stars or 1 billion. With that said, going from top to bottom, you have the Fleet Admiral being at 5 crowns, Admirals being at 3 crowns, Vice Admirals at 5 stars, Rare Admirals at 3 stars, Captain and Commodore classes are 1 star, officer ranks that are commander and below but still like an official officer, they get 1 million, and then for regular soldiers, you get 100,000. And then famous Marines like Garp and Kobe, they're special cases. So as you can imagine, this has definitely set the community alight, because now Admiral fans are taking this and running with it, saying that of course Akainu has to be him. He has literally a bounty that equivalates to around the same as Whitebeard, a bounty higher than every other Yonko, past and present, which makes this a good time to remind people that bounties are not literally just a strength thing, they're also perceived threat. Please don't forget. Yes, strength is definitely a factor. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, I'm also not saying that I think Akainu is just gonna go and start washing top tier Yonko. No. The next question is how Kuzan operates as a Blackbeard pirate. Oda explains that for Kuzan, he's not actually trying to really do any evil and he doesn't always listen to Blackbeard. Whether he has subordinates or not, it doesn't really change anything for him because he just wants to be free. Which, you know, I would have argued you're already free considering that all you were doing was traveling around the world with a penguin named Camel, doing what you wanted to. But hey, he's free to make that choice. With that said, he has killed. We get a great question connecting back to the SBS, talking about how the world military draft works, where essentially we're understanding that for countries affiliated with the world government, the Marines are literally coming to their island and picking the strongest people from either their militia or just if there's really strong people on their island and taking them to actually bolster the Marines' ranks. And this is what happened with Fujitora and Green Bull. They were part of like individual countries' own forces. Then the Marines came in and said, yo, who are the strongest people on your island? They pointed to them and they took them into the Marines. He does note that this also led to the 8-man revolution that we saw people claiming Sabo to be the Flame Emperor for. Because if you're taking a lot of the strongest people away from an island's defense, that's gonna, weaken their own defense and leave them liable to something like a coup. We then have the last 2 questions, but because the second to last question is actually the most juicy, I'm gonna skip to the last one real quick. The last question is just Oda essentially confirming that yes, Garling is strong and there's a reason for his strength. Watch him when he is, operating as a Gorosei member, which just makes me wonder what yokai he's going to become, honestly. But then we get to me what has to be the most, interesting piece of information we get from both sources of information and has huge implications lore-wise, and that's going to be the layout of the Rocky Port incident. So essentially, it all started with Law hearing that the pirate island Hachinosu has some sort of special poneglyph on it. Now, they never mention what the poneglyph was. I know it's not a road poneglyph because I feel like Law definitely would have mentioned that. So I think it's actually one of the 9 that's gonna compose of the real poneglyph. But anyway, Law hijacked a ship that was going towards Hachinosu, and apparently that ship was called the Rocky Port. He was trying to smuggle himself in the island. It seems like there was like a king and his retainers of some sort of kingdom on it. But for real, even though they were like a king and this was an official convoy, they were actually doing dealings with Pirate Island. But whatever. Essentially, the most important thing to know is that Law hijacked a ship. The ship was called the Rocky Port, and that ship got him onto the island where he started clashing with pirates. Soon after, both Blackbeard and Kobe pull up for their own reasons, leading the 3 of them to team up. We also know that Blackbeard had to fight off Wang Ji, who was the king of Hachinosu at that time. So does that mean that they ended up doing a 3v1 against him? Which, if that's true, that's just another thing to have to say that Blackbeard's down, because how the hell you need Kobe and Law's help? But apparently at the end of the day, that incident is what made Blackbeard the king of Hachinosu, Kobe a marine hero, as we heard that he was saving a lot of civilians during the Rocky Port incident, and Law a warlord, because we know he became a warlord from offering the government 100 pirate hearts. So we just know that he got them from the pirate island. Now Oda does mention that the reason he's saying it here is because he doubts he's going to put in the story, but wow, this is such an amazing battle that is never shown. And honestly, it's things like this that I really want to get more information on. So Oda, please give us more like that real soon. But I want to hear what you guys think of all the information in this video. What more would you like to learn about specifically of just events that have gone on that we've heard about in the One Piece world but haven't seen? Make sure you let me know all that good stuff and more in the comments. That's going to be the end of the video, y'all. But before we go, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this. Share it around with all your friends who love the series. Like I say, I'm trying to build a community, but I need your help to do it. That's going to be all for me. I'll catch y'all in the next one. And always remember, One Piece, one life. I'm not gonna lie, it's at these times that the nerd in me just really comes out, because what do you mean we get the Rocky Port incident in supplemental material? Hey, I'm not gonna lie, we need One Piece film Rocky Port immediately.